Dogs don't randomly ignore their owners, even though it feels that way in the moment. Because every time your dog ignores you, that decision was made before you even gave the command. Most people only notice the behavior itself. But the real change happens earlier, in a moment that usually goes unseen. It often begins with something small, a glance that fades quicker, or a pause that feels slightly different than before. These are the moments where your dog is deciding what matters most. Not the command itself, but whether the command matters enough to follow. Dogs don't ignore without context. They ignore when their own interpretation feels more reliable than your direction. That shift doesn't happen suddenly. It builds quietly over time through repeated moments of uncertainty. Each time your signals feel slightly inconsistent, your dog adjusts without making it obvious. They begin trusting their own judgment more than yours. At first, nothing feels wrong. Your dog still listens in calm, predictable situations. But in more important moments, something changes. Your dog begins choosing differently. This is when owners start feeling confused. They notice their dog listens sometimes, but not when it matters most. But this isn't inconsistency in the dog. It's consistency in the dog's internal decision process. Your dog is responding based on what feels most reliable in that moment. And sometimes, that is no longer your direction. This is why ignoring feels personal, because it happens right after you give a command. But the decision was not made after your command. It was made before it even reached your dog. And by the time you speak, your dog has already chosen what matters more. At first, these moments are easy to dismiss. You might think your dog is distracted or simply not paying attention. But over time, a pattern begins to appear. Your dog ignores you more often in specific situations. Those situations are not random. They are moments where your dog's own judgment feels stronger than your guidance. To most people, this looks like stubbornness, but stubbornness is just a label for a decision we don't understand. Dogs are not trying to challenge you. They are trying to act on what feels correct in that moment. And what feels correct comes from repeated experience. Small moments that quietly reshape how your dog responds. Each ignored command reinforces the next one. Not because your dog wants to ignore you, but because the choice felt right. Over time, ignoring becomes easier. Because the hesitation that once existed disappears. This is when the behavior starts to feel more obvious. Your dog no longer pauses, they simply act. And that lack of hesitation is what surprises most owners. Because it feels sudden, even though it wasn't. The shift happened earlier, in moments that didn't seem important. Moments where your dog stopped waiting before deciding. And once that pattern is established, it becomes the default way your dog responds. Ignoring is not the beginning of the problem. It is the final stage of a process that has been building quietly beneath the surface. Before ignoring comes hesitation. Before hesitation comes observation and silent evaluation. Each stage reflects a deeper shift in how your dog perceives you. From a clear reference point to something optional in the moment. A dog that still sees you as the primary reference does not ignore you. They may hesitate, but they still consider your direction first. A dog that begins to ignore has already changed that structure. You are no longer the starting point in their decision-making process. And that is why the behavior feels so difficult to change. Because you are not correcting an action, you are trying to influence a decision already made. Dogs act on what they believe is correct in the moment. And that belief is shaped by patterns they have come to trust. If your pattern feels stable, your dog follows it. If it feels inconsistent, your dog replaces it with their own interpretation. This is why some moments feel completely different from others. Your dog is not reacting randomly. They are responding to what feels most certain. Which means ignoring is not defiance. It is the result of a decision your dog believes is correct in that moment. And once that belief becomes consistent, the behavior follows automatically. Because your dog is no longer questioning the choice. Which means the most important moment is not when your dog ignores you. It is when your dog first decides they no longer need to wait for you at all.